Hello, world. Welcome to another Chale Wote lab. This time we're talking to UK artist Gloria. First, we'll be screening her film Dark Matter, and then she'll break it down for us. You know what it means and what it represents. Hello, Gloria. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Hey, how are you doing?
Great,
Hello.
great. So I just tried out a quick intro.
Okay.
But I'd like you to introduce yourself more thoroughly and then introduce your film before we screen it.
Okay. Yes. Hello, world. Hello, Accra. Hello, everybody. And my name's Gloria. I'm a multidisciplinary music artist. I focus on, experimental R&B, but also do a lot of performance pieces as well. And this is one of the first ones that I've done and recorded for you guys. This next piece is called Dark Matter Inc. And it is about basically building a new nation state for Black people globally and us getting paid for the data that we generate. So I hope you like it. And I will speak to you after.
Thank you.
No worries.
So we're going to go into the film Dark Matter Inc. by Gloria.
Yes.
Enjoy.
We stand here before you today with one message. Harness your existence and protect your future. Since the dawn of the industrial age, blackness has been a secondary conversation. Oppression has erased our history, our beliefs, and our democracy. We live in a society filled by data that strives for hate. Our story has been told from white lips and in white scriptures, woven into the fabric of time, and now we stand motionless, unable to see the path for our own future greatness. COVID has riddled our people, worldwide, seeping through our blood and bones, perpetually affecting our skin as veils. We are outnumbered. But for the first time, there is hope, collective unity, and vision. I call on you today to take a journey with me through lateral thinking, through globalization, camaraderie, and commitment. The future will be written by us as soon as we own the present. I call on you to harness the power of your data, own and profit from it. Data is the new invisible DNA that holds our modern society together. It fuels the future, AI and machine learning, robotics and more. The future is built on the data it is fed and the conscious bias which seeps through the data set. Our data is our privacy and our currency. On average, we create 1.7 megabytes of data every second. This avalanche of wants and needs and desires only come legally and illegally from our homes and smartphones. AI-enabled gadgets are silently listening to you. The songs that you play are transmitting emotional data to the rest of the mainframe, and each time you use your biometric features to open your phone, pay for goods, access your office, you are being tracked. Active data engagement seems harmless. The freedom that you are given online for nothing, with nothing to hide, serves you well. You feel free. Let me tell you, you are not free. From your location, IP addresses, private preferences, sexual orientations, likes, shares, and private messages on dating sites, and your income. All build a mirror image of you, which can be oppressed. In this fantastical world, everything comes at a price, and that price is fueling trillion-dollar Silicon Valley companies who own, mine, and sell your data. In 2019, Google and Facebook made $146 billion from advertising alone, with the top 5 big tech companies now worth more than the entire Japanese stock exchange. Data is the new gold. Why would we not fight for this precious commodity? Picture this. You want to control. You afford a new social interaction, purchasing power, and conformability online. The job is for a higher standing citizen. The job is not for you. Picture this. You are arrested for an act of terror in an area you have never visited. The face recognition cameras do not lie. You are still detained. We need to fight the change, a shift from the nation state. I am here to tell you how. Black data is worldview. Black data is rich. Black data is the future. We need to choose how our data is used by big businesses, research, and technology. Without it, we would be erased. How do we own our data? It starts with participation. Welcome to Dark Matter Inc. Dark Matter is the world's first black-owned data and technology company, set on to preserve the interests of black people globally. We are a privacy protection and data profiteering organization, decentralizing the wealth of data for everyone. We are building an ecosystem and global nation state for black people everywhere. How? We collect, package, and sell black data to corporations and distribute profit to all people involved. We are future-proof and also present. We are radical anarchist thinkers armed with technology. The blackout will be rolled out in 3 key stages. Phase 1, lunar eclipse. Once registered, our task force will scour data points from the internet to wearables, retracting any black data currently being sold on the market without our consent. If data cannot be retracted, we negotiate a price for its usage and we lose supply quickly. Phase 2. Economics. For the next 2 years, all Black people worldwide will have access to a special Black VPN. You can enjoy the internet, your phone, your gadgets without being traced. We will scramble any trusted data to ensure it is ineligible to foreign data mining. This VPN will collect data which will be stored and repackaged the same as our specially supplied platforms at Blackout HQ. A 2-mile-squared floating hub 50,000 feet above Manberg land, unclaimed land in Antarctica. This vessel is twice as big as Facebook's new data mining warehouse, 3 chicken for our data connection for the next 15 years. This web data will be sold to big businesses, pharmaceutical companies, and banks under a fair usage agreement. All net income from sales will be divided by participants. We expect this to be worth $10,000 a year for the average Black household. Phase 3. Title: Akeiti. The true value of Black matter will be visible with the launch of the Black global internet. Black net built an infrastructure impenetrable to big retail and tech companies, providing free internet, news, social media platforms, retail, and streaming sites, all Black-owned and Black-backed. For Black-net to benefit all Black children and people worldwide, we need to increase internet connection. Today, less than 40% of people in Africa have internet. By 2025, we expect this to double. We want to spearhead this change. Hijacking the 2000 discarded SpaceX satellites laying down above the African continent. Black funding power is worth $1.2 trillion each year in America alone. And we want to triple that Black spending power and increase currency retention within the next 10 years. Phase 3 will provide privacy protection outside of the home. Each subscriber will receive a transmission record, keeping you protected from facial recognition and wearable tracking devices. Your movements will be tracked by Dark Matter Inc. only. No other state has jurisdiction. Picture this. In 30 years, AI robots are black and white. Machine learning racial bias reduced to 2% from its current 43% today. Black people everywhere get access to the best healthcare and cures for Black illnesses. Our society is healthy, striving, happy, and globally connected. I call on you to make this a reality. I call on you to unsubscribe. To create a thriving Black collective conscience, you need to reject the current system you're within to ensure a future archive of our existence. You who love social media, you who buy too much from Amazon, you part-time gamers, you spiritualists, you philosophers, you basic freaks. You need all of you engaged for the new world order to build infrastructure and help us unsubscribe from a system that does not have our best interests at heart. Black is now. Black is untraceable. Black is existence, money, and capital. Subscribe to Black at Dark Matter Inc.
What can I say?
Can you hear me, Gloria?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. That's a really powerful film. That's a really powerful picture.
Thank you.
I know that, you know, it was, you had a really tight space to work in and under pressure for time, but, you know, it came out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Not pretty well, I'm really happy with it. So I'm really not bothered about the tight timeline. It was quite nice to actually do something under pressure so much. But yeah, no, like I'm happy with it.
So Dark Matter, I'd like you to tell me about it and this situating of data within a Black nation state and monetizing data, you know.
Yeah.
in the new Black nation state. For me, I think that capital is caused of disruption insofar as people of African descent having to find their way around a global structure that they live outside of, you know. So then I'm wondering why the need to monetize data, you know, this commodification of data, I guess is what I'm trying to understand.
So if you don't monetize your data, somebody else will, and capitalism isn't going away. The only reason why we probably think it's more of a virus is because a lot of us can't subscribe to it, because usually it's owned by a quite archaic white system. If you want to make a change in the future, you need to lead the change, and that is you kind of controlling how your data is used, how your data is packaged, processed, and also sold back to companies. Because at the moment, you know, Black data generally is kind of not used properly when it comes to medical research, through to like how the the conscious bias in the data set that's basically affecting Black people, how they have to stay in prison for longer, or they can't get access to mortgages, so they can't move into different areas. The system is very much set up, unfortunately, against us. And I'm kind of fascinated with the level of systematic racism which is kind of feeding into data and the data sets. So for me, Dark Matter Inc. is a fantastical story, but isn't it a great story? Because ultimately it's saying that for us to create our own nation state, we create all of the infrastructure that is needed for a nation state to live in the 21st century. We create our own internet, we create our own social media platforms, shopping, everything, and that's all Black owned. I don't think capitalism is a virus. I think it's just something that we need to own and make a construct that actually works for us, you know? And if that is the case, I don't think it would be a virus then, because what we're talking about is decolonizing the whole idea of who is making money. And it becomes more of a socialist movement that if you subscribe, like everybody subscribes to the internet, you have the ability to also benefit from that instead of it being stuck in the top 5 companies, in the big tech companies, which are now worth more than the whole Japanese stock exchange. They've got a lot of cash. So, yeah.
So, right. I think that for us over here, in Ghana and other parts of the continent, we're thinking more and more about creating a society and a community that thrives outside of capital.
How are you thinking of doing that?
Through communal labor and resource distribution.
Okay.
You know?
So how with that, I think
so inherently over here, inherently the culture is already communal.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
Outside of the capital, when you go outside of the capital, Accra, if you travel into the hinterland, people are farming together, harvesting together, and distributing, selling the food together and then splitting the proceeds. There are communities that are solely reliant on barter. So inherently, the communities here are inherently communal. And the lifestyle is based on sharing of resources. So when we speak about a new nation state, we shouldn't even, for us, we don't think about it even as a nation state. It's the counter-state mythology. It's about the dismantling of the nation state and creating a new force, an unknown, basically. So I want to understand your context. Building because for us over here, another nation state that is rooted in capital is just more of a replication of the old. What can we do outside of monetizing data? What can we do with all of that information outside of commodifying it?
Well, I think I kind of studied that and talked about that in the piece. Like, even if you take the money away, what you can still do is shift an unconscious bias. And I think one thing that for me, I think that one thing that you're not really looking at is the shift of the world. Basically, our new nation state, even if we like it or not, will be online. Most people will be online, especially by 2030. So it's like, how do you make sure you're sorting them spaces out that everybody's going to use, and also make sure that we're creating a global nation state of Black people everywhere? Because I think that's the big thing that I actually was touching on when I was doing Dark Matter Inc. Because, you guys in Accra, how we feel maybe in the UK, we're quite disconnected from people in the US, we're disconnected from people in, the Middle East. Like, how do we actually create a real collective consciousness and a space for all of us to communicate? And then I think the nation state is built from there. I'm talking about infrastructure, and without it, I really don't think any kind of nation state can be built moving forward.
All right. Tell me, in making this film, I'm trying to understand what led to this idea, and also how you constructed these images, and also what what you want, the effect you want, I guess the impact you wanted to have on the viewer, with regard to data as a resource. Yeah, basically.
Data as a commodity, really, because I'm just thinking further ahead because, yes, we can see it as a resource, but as we've seen, all resources that come from us are always like manipulated and somebody else has just taken them and sold them as a commodity. So getting there kind of first and understanding that this data is kind of so rich and how much data we create on a daily basis as well for anybody who has a smartphone and connects to the internet. I wanted to make this as like a public service announcement for everybody really to listen. And, you know, if they have access to the internet, if they have phones, if they're using smartphones, if they're buying things from Amazon, just to make people really aware, like what data is being sold, what data can be kind of just fed from the internet. And for instance, even if you use dating websites, your private messages can be read and that can be packaged and sold. So, you know, when I was doing the research, I found it super, I don't know, like kind of scary, but at the same time kind of enlightening, because I saw quite a sci-fi approach to how we could maybe change our future nation state and kind of really rewrite our own history. Because if we own all the infrastructure, nobody can burn that down or say it never existed because we're the ones who own it, do you know? So I think that's what I was trying to get out of the piece. And in terms of research, it was all over the web. And it actually started from an idea from a futurist called Jaron Lanier. And he was talking about generally people owning their own data. And I just took that one step further to say, you know, well, why don't Black people own their own data and collectively own it as well, and collectively decide what they're going to do with it, and then also pay everybody? Quite a socialist movement, but rooted in capitalism.
Great. I'm trying to understand this nation state that you speak about. I mean, generally, it's seemingly inclusive. How one distill it for a community in Accra, you know, where people, I mean, everybody speaks English, but then also some people don't, you know. So this idea of data commodification with the new nation state, how are we translating that into other communities to make it more accessible? How do we simplify this idea such that anyone in any community, classed or not, will be able to access it and also model it within their own context?
I think, well, that's a little bit, it's a bit of a strange question actually, because data is fed in whatever language you guys put the data in. So data is mined and then it's basically packaged. It's like stocks basically. So if we're going to just kind of simplify the video, is that what you're saying? If we can simplify what Dark Matter Inc. is about? Okay, so for us to own our own data and get paid for it, we would need infrastructure to do that, and that's the basis. I don't think every household in Accra needs to understand how to own and mine their own data. Nobody understands that in the world at the moment, so that wouldn't be a useful tool. What would be useful though is having the infrastructure for a company to be able to do that for you. And I think what you're trying to get at is it's still going back to this capitalist thing, which you don't like, basically.
All right. Is there anything else that we've missed? Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No. Hopefully it sparks some interesting conversations, and hopefully it just sparks an idea of like how we can actually go forward in the future. Like, I love sci-fi, so it's a fantastical story. I would love to hear what you guys think.
Well, we'll be screening it again, and
Oh,
I think after the festival we'll be able to get some more feedback, you know. But I think it's been fascinating for everyone, you know, people
cool,
who watched it live and people who tuned in on the internet.
cool. Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming through. It's
No
been
worries.
really good.
Thank you. Speak to you
Alrighty,
soon.
take care now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.